Great. Well, thanks everybody for hanging in here before lunch on this. As Eric mentioned, I'm John Black. I'm CEO of the company, and really I'm here on behalf of a team that we've kept together for a discovery and a major monetization. We've got the same team back together. It's Kevin Heather, Mark Wayne, Meg Cameron Jones here running our office in Vancouver, and Fernando Pickman. So I'm really the one that gets to talk about this, but it's them and all of our field teams in Argentina and Peru that are doing most of the work on this. We, of course, have forward-looking statements on this, and I'm a geologist, so you know how we like to talk about future-looking things on this. So these are the highlights of the company. As I mentioned, we're quite a successful team in the past on this. Our Antares group had the good fortune to make a major porphyry discovery called Hekira in southern Peru. We drilled that out over a course of about 5 years and successfully sold that to First Quantum for about $650 million in 2010. Learned a lot in that exercise about how things work in the mining business. We came out as exploration geologists after long times in major mining companies, and we're pretty well trained there. This was our first foray as Antares out into the junior exploration world. And when we sold Antares, we spun Regulus out of that to form a new company to repeat the process. Some of the highlights of what we have now is we'll see that with Regulus, we've captured what we think is another exciting project that we will be able to push through the same process on this. We've initiated a drilling program on that. It'll be a 15 to 18,000 meter drilling program. We've announced the first 3 holes, and we've had some pretty spectacular results on it. Our first hole hit 184 meters of a little over 1.5% copper, a gram of gold, 12 grams of silver. We've released 2 holes after that, one of which had over 500 meters of 0.65% copper and 0.47 grams per ton of gold. So very exciting results on this first part. But let's take a look at the story itself and see how this plays out and what it is. First, a little bit about the style of company. I think it's important for you to understand. We've heard different types of companies in different stages on this. This is a diagram that comes from Brent Cook and Joe Mazumdar, Exploration Insights, and it shows the life cycle of a typical exploration company on this. And where we like to work is we like to identify projects as close to the discovery stage as possible, but preferably without full revelation of what the project size is. So these we source from different types. A lot of times these have come from major companies that have had a project that for various reasons it's stalled, and you'll be able to pick it up. Perhaps the most successful group of this style of exploration is Ross Beatty's Alumina Copper group, where they captured a series of 5 or 6 projects over the decades that they managed to capture the project, drill it out, reveal the full size, and sell it to a major company. So we like to be on this steep part of the value add curve. And ideally, we take a project through about a pre-feasibility stage, demonstrate its size, de-risk the project, and then preferably a major mining company takes that project over for us. And so we're looking for a monetization event, ideally within a 2 to 3 to 4 year time frame on this. It does require us to put quite a bit of capital into drilling these out. You'll see the type projects we identified require a lot of drilling. We won't have time to go through all the details, but this is what happened with us with Antares. We started in 2004. We acquired the Hekira project, made a pretty nice discovery on it, suffered the global financial crisis, managed to come out of that pretty quickly, and delivered a PEA in mid-2010, which resulted in the sale of Antares for about $650 million. We spun Regulus out of that for some projects we have in Argentina. We proceeded to work on those in Argentina. In 2012, we found ourselves in a situation where it was a pretty tough market. Our project was in Argentina when Argentina wasn't a very good place to be at that time on it. And our exploration costs were increasing as the project went deeper. They're very good projects. We hope to bring those back to life sometime soon on it. But we felt it was best, since we were sitting on cash, to go out and see if we could acquire another project. I think it was the first time in my career that I was on the bottom of a market, realized it, and actually had some cash in the company to do something about it. So we embarked on about a 2-year period of time sorting through companies and opportunities to see if we could find another flagship project for ourselves. We had the good fortune of being introduced to Fernando Pickman, who had a company called Southern Legacy Peru. Small company, Canadian company, listed, no cash, sitting on a really interesting project called the Antiquary project in northern Peru. It's a large copper gold skarn with a high sulfidation overprint. It's in a land of giants, really. We're not far from Yanacocha, Newmont's big mine. We're immediately adjacent to Tantuatay and Cerro Corona, two operating mines in northern Peru. The project has had some drilling on it in the past. There were 2 campaigns by junior companies totaling 17,000 meters on the project, and there is a 43-101 resource to start on this. It's about 295 million tons of 0.48% copper, 0.36 grams per ton gold, and a little over 10 grams of silver. So if we convert that to metals, you can see on the table what that amounts to. We consider this a starting point on the project. This mineralization is open for expansion to depth and in most directions laterally. Our share structure is pretty tight. We have about 74 million shares out. This is just post some warrant exercise last week. We've had a bit of a soft spot in share price due to that warrant exercise, but it brought some cash into the treasury as well. So we've got a little over 9 million in cash right now, and we're pretty well set for the work that we have underway. As I mentioned, Antiquary, it's a large copper gold skarn. It has a high sulfidation overprint on it. We'll see in some sections how that works. It's really 2 distinctly different mineral systems in almost the same place. One's an epithermal system that's copper, gold, pyrite, arsenic, and one is a copper gold skarn beneath that. This is the land position that we have, and you might ask, why was there 300 million tons of 0.8 copper equivalent out there as a resource that wasn't being able to move forward, didn't have much of a market capitalization to it, and why was it stalled? This shows much of the reasons. It's a historic mining district, and so we own 100% of the red claims. And you can see there's not a large amount of them. They're not even contiguous on this. We're immediately adjacent to the Tantuatay mine. So this is the open pit in 2014. This is the open pit in 2016, beginning to wrap around our land position. The dashed outline is an outline around the drilling that was done by these 2 junior campaigns in the 1990s and again in 2007, 2008. And they were looking for high-grade veins. You can see the orientation of the mining claims in this area. And they somewhat accidentally discovered that the wall rock to these high-grade pyrite and argite veins is well-mineralized copper-gold skarn. So they made a really interesting discovery. However, their style of exploration was not the style of exploration we like to think of for modern companies on this. You'll notice the yellow land is land held by the mine. This is a joint venture between Buenaventura and Southern Copper, which is Grupo Mexico's Peruvian sub. They own a piece of land that's a wedge right down the middle of our land position on this. The previous drilling drilled right across that, and they identified a deposit, but the deposit partially sits on the mine next door as well. And this and a number of other things they did resulted in a very interesting discovery, but very poor management of how they did it. And they lost their ability to go forward. They got crosswise with the TSX on how they were doing things here. They upset the local communities. And they left the district as one that those of us working in Peru knew they had outstanding rocks here, but it was complicated. It had legal problems. It had social problems. It had old mine waste problems on this. And we had this very high on our list of targets geologically to acquire, but very low in terms of difficulty to move forward. It required skill sets that weren't our specialty. It required really legal and social skill sets on this. We had it kind of buried. Fernando's board decided to take it to a process to look for a partner to take this forward. And First Quantum actually tagged us and said, hey, you should take a look at this. When we took a look at it, I came in to sit down with Fernando to say, these are the reasons we can't go forward with this project. It's just a little too complicated for us. Love the rocks, but it's a little bit difficult to do. And he walked us through all the work he had done. Fernando's a mining lawyer based out of Lima, and he consolidated this and quietly cleaned up all the title, cleaned up the issues related to environmental responsibilities on this, and made arrangements for the government to take over, and basically put the package together so that it was a doable project. We merged our 2 companies together, and then once we had that done, we had the challenge of we had a small collage of little claims that partially covered an interesting deposit that extended onto the neighbor's land. The neighbors who were operating a heap leach gold operation on the upper part of the oxide cap of their deposit, this is the mine, this is the heap leach pads, we're 6 kilometers away from Cerro Corona. This is a mine operated by Goldfields. This is a mill and concentration operation. You can see their tailings pile. This mine runs out of ore in 8 years. They have processing facilities that could process the style of mineralization we have. These guys run out of ore in 8 to 10 years, and they have a logical brownfields extension over the deposit that we share with them. So what we had a choice is do we just sit on the ground? We know we have part of a deposit that the neighbors will want, but we didn't have much of a market cap. So we felt the best way to do this is to move it forward, drill it out, demonstrate the size of this and economic viability of it, and basically motivate one or the other of these parties to take the project over from us. This is a quick cross-section through it, and we can see that this is the volcanic pile, Miocene volcanics that sit on top of it. This hosts the high sulfidation epithermal mineralization. So this is pyrite enargite mineralization, so gold, copper, arsenic style mineralization. In the limestones and the calcareous siltstones is where this previous drilling somewhat accidentally discovered that there's very interesting skarn mineralization. The importance of this is the size potential for increase is really in this skarn environment. And also the style of mineralization of the skarn is metallurgically much more friendly, if you will. It's more conventional float leach, and it doesn't have the deleterious elements that you see in this area. So the drilling that we've done to date on this, we have a collaborative agreement with the mine, so we can drill from the mine ground on the south side back beneath our land position. This was the first hole that we drilled. These 2 holes have also been announced on this. And the next release will be hole 3 up in this corner and hole 161 and 164 down in this corner. So from the first hole, it's 150 meters step out to the north and 200 meters to the southeast. This will be a further 150 to the north, and this will be 400 meters to the southeast. So with the next release, which should be in the next 2 weeks or so, we will see 900 meters of strike length of results on the southern margin of the project. The permitting will allow us to begin to move into the heart of the deposit in the following weeks, and that's what we really want to watch. So we mentioned some of these early results, 184 meters of quite high-grade copper gold. This is all high sulfidation mineralization, more in the volcanic environment. This hole cut both the volcanic environment and the skarn environment and hit a particularly nice intercept down in the skarn. So this is really what we're looking for is this. We'll continue to see holes along this southern margin, and then over the course of the next few months and the next year, we'll be moving more to the north and move more into a skarn environment, closer to the surface and cleaner metallurgically. So as we mentioned, that watch for the next release on this hole, these 2 holes. This hole is currently in progress. This is down to about 630 meters this morning, and will be in another hole that will be released before Christmas on this. This is just an oblique view showing the open pit mine on our immediately south border, their leach facilities, and the mill concentration of Cerro Corona about 6 kilometers away. We've gone through these highlights that are really the catalysts on the project, the results on the project, or the drilling that's been coming out. Look for us also to reestablish a strategy for our Argentina assets in the coming months. There was a recent election in Argentina which has improved the investment environment or confirmed that it's an improved investment environment. Those projects currently contribute no value to our company, but we believe do represent some pretty interesting opportunities there, and watch for us to reactivate those. This is just the share price over the last few months. When we announced the agreements, we got a pretty nice bump on this. When we announced the first drill results, we got a pretty good bump. We've recently had a little bit of a soft spot that was partially due to those warrants being sold, but that seems to have dried up, and we're back into kind of a tightly traded margin on this. So thank you very much for your time on this. We're around the booth all day. This had to be a quick snapshot, but please stop by if you want to know more.